Hello, it's part 2 with Keri Burnor, and Keri is going to talk about nano. Please, Keri, just explain all.
Okay, well, thank you again, Alexandra, for continuing this with me and for getting up so early to do it. That's a sacrifice of love. Okay, so basically I'm going to dive right in. Where I left off yesterday is in the story where I had a surgery in 2011. And it was in July. And previously, before 2011, I had a sinus surgery on my polyp. I had to remove a polyp in the right sinus. So I was in a good enough situation to have that looked at. And so I had the polyp grew back. And I was also concerned because I was having vertigo symptoms. So I'm like, all right. So I went to the doctor and I said, listen, I think, having problems because I can't breathe that well. And he looked under there and we did another MRI. And I have MRI pictures before and after. And so basically he said that there's mucosal thickening. And so he has to go in there and remove the polyp because it grew back. And I said, well, okay, great. And I said, well, how long have you been doing this? He said, I've been doing this for over 30 or 35 years. And I said, well, great, then I have confidence in you. You'll be able to do it. So, and he was a Chinese diplomatic doctor. So I didn't have any suspicions. I asked him if he knew Jesus, and from what I remember, he believes in Christ. So I was like, okay, everything's great. This was a Christian hospital. So we set up for the surgery, and before the surgery, I got the creeps, and I was nervous. And I'm like, well, I'm going to still go on and finish the surgery because I need to be able to breathe. But I'll ask a friend of mine who is in the DOD and see if he will come down and just, watch over the hospital to make sure no bad guys come in and do something, So I called him up and I said, hey, do you mind, just kind of keeping an eye out? And he's like, not at all. I'll be right there and I'll watch. And I had also another friend who's a witness to all of this taking place. So I went through, that day in July of 2011, and I went through with the surgery. But before I went through with the surgery, the anesthesiologist came into the room. Very nice people, but he was a little strange. He was a little weird. He bent over to tell me, to whisper in my ear and tell me, I'm going to do everything I can to help you get your bodyguard in the operating room. And I'm like, I never told him that I had a bodyguard. So how did he find that out? I don't know. So I was like, okay, whatever. All right. Okay, great. So as I was coming out of the surgery, I noticed, because I had a previous surgery, my ears were open in a certain way that was unusual, because previously the first surgery where the first polyp was removed, there was nothing going on around my ears. So I was like, all right, that's weird, but I'll just keep an awareness of this. Then when my friend, I got out of the procedure, and I said to my friend Mark, I'm like, well, wait a minute, where did so-and-so go? And I try to protect his name because in the beginning I used to say it all the time, and I think I got him in trouble. I didn't mean to do that. So sorry, you know who you are. And but I don't think I think he was called off of the job or told to stay away, and he didn't know. He's just a friend of mine. But he's very well involved. I mean, he knows Oliver North personally. So I was like, all right, So I tried to call him to pay him, and he wouldn't accept payment. And when I woke up out of the anesthesia, he was gone. So I asked my friend Mark, I'm like, well, what's going on? He says, well, he had to go and pick up his kid. And I was like, all right, that's fine. I'm alive. He's okay. Everything's okay. So Mark goes ahead to get me wheeled out in the wheelchair, because I'm not supposed to walk, because I'm still, heavily coming off of the wonderful anesthesia. And so Mark goes to get the car, and I'm in the hallway by myself, and the anesthesiologist walks into the hallway, looks at me and gives me a serious stare and just shakes his head like this. And I'm like, what's your problem? I'm alive. you know, what's wrong with you, you know? So at that point, I went back home. The first 5 weeks after the surgery, I started having big time itchiness. I just wanted to scratch my skin off, and I thought it was bed bugs. So I went back to the hospital and I yelled at them and I said, "You're nasty. You didn't even clean the sheets. You know, what's wrong with you people? I think I have bed bugs because of you." And I said, "Give me some medicine." So they gave me medicine, and the medicine didn't work. And I'm like, all right. So I just kept writing down my symptoms in a journal, and I took pictures of my skin, and I was like, this is really weird, because for 5 weeks, the same symptoms of just, I want to scratch my skin off. And it was creepy, crawly, and weird, you know, it was really weird. So then a year and a half later, after the 5 weeks, things kind of got so sort of normal, but I didn't, you know, it wasn't 100%. I knew there was something wrong, but I couldn't put my finger on it. So I just figured, okay, it'll go away eventually. So a year and a half later, the symptoms got worse. And I felt like I was cooking from the inside out. So I went into Google and I did a search, and I put in my symptoms like dizziness, heat, heat sensations in my body, dryness, all these discomfort in my stomach, and the name that came back, the word that came back on the screen was microwave sickness. And I'm like, microwave? It's like, I don't even use a microwave. That's crazy. So I started to try to remember. I was like, you know, I remember my uncle telling me that he had a problem years ago, back in 2006. He came back to visit our family. And we haven't seen my uncle in over 20 years. And I was cooking a steak dinner for my priest friends. They came from Boston, so they're enjoying a steak dinner. My sister calls and says, "Here, you need to get over here now." And I'm like, "Christy, what's your problem?" She says, "You need to get here now." And she hung up the phone. And I'm like, "I'm sorry," to the priest. I said, "Just, you know, put the key under the mat, and I'll, you know, don't worry about the dishes." And I went to go see my sister like 20 minutes away, and she pulls me into this room, and there's no lights on, and she's whispering, and I'm like, "What the heck's wrong with you? What's wrong with you?" She says, "Uncle Kevin came to visit, and he says that he's being followed by black helicopters, and that he has proof that he was chipped against his will." And I'm like, all right. And she says, "But I want to take him to the Veteran Affairs or Veteran Hospital and get him mental help." And I said, "Don't you do that, Christy, because if he's telling you the truth, you could be putting him in harm's way, you know?" So Christy's like, "Okay, but this is just too weird for me." And I said, let me talk to Uncle, and let me see what he has. So I went upstairs, and Uncle has the family sitting in a circle, and he's telling everybody, and people are like, my family's like, "You're just crazy." And I was asking him, you know, very serious questions. And I said, "Can you please give me the documents, and can I look at them?" And he gave me the Amen Clinic's records, and he asked me for help. So I took 6 weeks of my life out to just get a sense of what was happening to him. And so after 6 weeks, I realized my uncle was not lying, that he was chipped against his will. The Amen Clinic lied to me. I had the power of attorney so I could talk to his doctors. And I called another Amen Clinic to verify that the PET scan images actually do record metallic images, and they can show something foreign that's in the body. And they were lying about that. And I said to the lady, I said, or to the doctor, I said, "I'm just letting you know that, you know, everything we're saying is being recorded, because this might have to be used in some sort of legal, lawful proceeding." So he just said, well, you know, he tried to convince me. He took like 2 hours of my time to convince me that my uncle, that was anomalies with the scan. So then we opened an investigation with the congressman in Worcester. I think his name is McGovern. And I caught them lying. And I was like, no, 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 we're done here. I said, we came here, we're trying to open a file. We want to get to the bottom of the truth. And I cannot believe that you just lied to my face. I said, so uncle, come with me. My uncle's like crying. he just cries. And I'm like, uncle, that's not going to help you. I said, stop that. Let's come outside, you know? And he's very in touch with his feelings. And so we brought him outside. I called the Veteran Affairs in Puerto Rico, and I had my uncle's scans in my hands. And I talked to him, and he was great. He was honest. He's like, this is happening to many of the soldiers in the United States. And a lot of people from many places are trying to come to Puerto Rico to get asylum of some sort. Not that it's not its own country, but certainly that people tend to feel like they're better treated there at the Veteran Affairs place. So really nice guy, but he said, frankly, I can't really help you a lot because I have a family and I don't want them getting hurt. And I said, well, I appreciate your honesty. So I told my uncle, you need to go to organizations where people are going through this so that you don't feel like you're alone. And one of the people I met, I looked him up online. His name is James Walbert. And James put my uncle in contact with a bunch of other people, targeted individuals, so that he could get support. And then I told him, I said, uncle, our country's the one that's doing this. So your best bet is to just leave and go away and be comfortable and just, so he left and he would go all over. I mean, I don't know, many countries and rub it in. He would go like to, you know, beautiful, like China and beautiful, you know, deep under, you know, deep scuba diving and stuff like that, and put pictures on Facebook. And I'm like, well, yeah, you're enjoying your life. So he got away, and he's trying to, you know, just enjoy life, the life that he has while he was being tortured. So at this point, I kept a record of that. So in 2012, in December, when I was waking up, or November was when I was feeling like there's something wrong. So I went to go to my cabinet, you know, where I keep all my documents, and I opened up my uncle's file, and the file is this thick. And I was going through documents, and I'm like, okay, I know James Walbert, you know, and I would send him Christmas cards. So I'm like, all right, I'll give him a call. And I look through and I see Dr. Hildegard Staniger, Dr. John Hall. These are documents that for James Walbert's case to verify he was going through being chipped himself. And so I called James and I said, James, I don't know if this is crazy or not, but I think something weird is happening to me. He said, you need to buy this machine called the JM20 Pro. So I bought it off of eBay for cheap, you know, to get it cheaply. And he taught me how to use it. And he was on Skype and I was away, and it was in a wire connection, not wireless, wire connection. And he was showing me how to use it. And he said, oh my God, you've got chips around your ears and around your waistline. I said, that's nonsense. The machine is broken. It's from eBay. So I said, all right, I'm going to see if I can find a professional. And I said, what do you think? Do you think I should talk to Melinda Kidder, who did his scans? And he's like, absolutely. Tell her I sent you. So I call Melinda Kidder, who no longer does the scans now, but she deserves a long break here. That lady's been through hell and back trying to help people. And so I called her and I said, listen, it feels like I'm having hot flashes, but I don't think it's hot flashes. I just need you to tell me if this is really happening, if I've got something weird going on. She says, okay. I said, well, it just so happens I have a client in Missouri, and I'll be up there in like a couple of weeks. Can I set a time? She said, sure. And I said, well, how much is the scan? She said, $1,500. I said, I'll put it in the mail tomorrow, and let's meet and let's figure this thing out. So after court, my client who needed my help, I put my client in the car and drove 2 hours, and some white van or white car, it was like a white van, had funny special plates on it. and it was following me, but it was on the on the right-hand side. And so I elbowed my client and I said, see that? What's going on? I said, what is that? What kind of car is that? And he said, that is weird. It says special plates on there. And I said, well, my ears feel very strange. So the material that was put in me, okay, and this I found out in retrospect, on the way to see Melinda Kidder, the material that was in me was being activated. And so when I went to Melinda, after 3 hours of testing, she said, you have signals coming out of your body. You have nano-Tesla, you have, which is 0.02, which is similar to that of a cell phone. And then I had, you know, stuff in the gigahertz switch range, you know, like a lot of different numbers there. So I was like, well, what does this mean? And I says, is it beaming at me or is it from my body to the environment? She said, from my body to the environment. I said, okay. I said, do you know, is there a way to fix this? And she said, I don't know. And I said, well, what should I do? And she said, you should see Dr. Hildegard Staninger. So at this stage, I went from Missouri, I believe it was Missouri. At some point, I ended up finishing the meeting with her, and then I had to teach a class out in California, in Sacramento. So I went to the class, I taught the class, I left. But when I was descending from, I believe it was Missouri, to Sacramento, my ears started to hurt. But they weren't bleeding this time. It was just incredible pain. And I was like, well, I have a sinus infection. It's just from a cold. No big deal. So I restored myself, you know, a few days and heavy liquids, and I was okay. I no longer had the cold. So then I went from Sacramento to go back home to Texas. And in the leg of the trip, we had to stop to San Diego. When we stopped to San Diego, my ears, upon descending in the plane, started to bleed. It was like a pinkish ooze, and it was coming out. It was very painful, and I was crying. I'm like, oh, the pain was, I couldn't endure it. It was very, very painful. So I'm like, all right. I asked the stewardess, do you have any Tylenol? She said, even if I did, I'm not allowed to give it to you. And I said, okay, I'm sorry, you know, and I waited, and everybody got off the plane, or most people got off the plane, and I got off the plane. I said, I need my bags. And the lady said, but you're not home yet. I said, no, I don't want to go home. I need to get off the plane. Please give me my bags. And she asked me, are you okay? Do you need an ambulance? I said, no, I'm fine. I said, I just need my bags. So I got my luggage and sat down in the airport and just tried to figure out, do I know anybody in California? So at this point, I looked in my address book and I saw, okay, I know my friend Mark lives in California. So I called him, and he said, of course, I'd be happy to pick you up. And I said, I think something's going on. It's really weird. And my phones were going to call divert. Really strange things were happening. And you could see pictures of that on my YouTube channel. If you go to the video, first go to Sister Keri Burnor, B-U-R-N-O-R, and go to the video, Jesus Defeats Nanotechnology. You'll see the phones that I was using, and it says call divert set. You know? So basically, at this point, I slept for 3 days because I knew the pain was, I couldn't take the pain from that, you know, I had to recover from that. So I'm going to see if I could find my books here. And so basically, at this point, my friend, I called Melinda Kidder, and I said, Melinda, is there any way that you could get me the report? And she said, of course, I have it almost complete. And I said, great. So she sends me the report and then says, you need to see Dr. Hildegard Staninger. I said, okay. I went to research who this person was, and she happened to be in Los Angeles. Well, I was in Los Angeles. So at that point, I called Dr. Staninger, and she has a process where she has to have a doctor refer you because she's not an MD and she needs to know who to work with to help you out. So I called my friend who's a doctor and I said, listen, I have a urine analysis proving I have heavy metals. Here's the form, I'll fill it out. And if you could just, you know, put your name on it and send it in. She said, sure, you have the proof that you have heavy metals, no problem. Go ahead and see this toxicologist. So the interesting thing is, I go to see Dr. Hildy, in love we call her Hildy, and she says, yes, you do have a signal coming from your body, and the material that's emitting the signal, because I said I'm not in the military, I don't know why someone would chip me. She said, no, it's not a chip. I said, well, what is it? She said, it's nanotechnology. And I asked her, I said, well, what is that? She tried to explain it. I said, wait a minute, that's way over my head. I said, I gave her my debit card and said, can you fix it? And she said, yes, but the protocols are not fun. I said, that's okay. I said, how long will it take? She said, 4 to 6 months. I said, okay, great. I said, so just fill the bags. And I went downstairs to get more briefcases. And we filled up 4 to 5 briefcases and other bags full of these herbs that I have to take. And I had a protocol I had to take. And so I was taking 75 pills starting that night. So 75 pills a day. Now there's other ways to get through the remedy. And when Dr. Hildy started to work with me, the companies that she worked with stopped working with her. So she wasn't able to continue to make her products. They stopped her ability to make all of the products specifically designed to melt the nanotech in my instance, in my situation. So bottom line is I was able to figure out through a lot of study, a lot of research, a lot of trial and error, because I was hit with nanotech weapons. These are biotechnology weapons, 9 times over the course of 5 years, 5 or something years. And so basically I want to show you the before and after pictures, because this is important. This is the MRI before the surgery, before I went in for the surgery. And as you can see, and I'll do the best I can to hold this into the camera. As you can see, that's my little head. And there's nothing inside of the mastoid air cell region, which is the dark area around the ears. So you can see my little brain up there, and there's the dark spot. So this is before the surgery. And then after the surgery, I was very sneaky about how I did all this, by the way. The nanotechnology that was in my body actually had a metallic base to it. So it was very painful. I had to be in an MRI capsule for 3 hours with metal in my head, which is very painful. But, and the people in there were like, are you okay? And I said, oh yeah, I'm perfectly fine. Can you put the classical music on louder? Because I knew if I made a scene or if I started to cry because of the pain, they would have, it was very tricky. I had to really manage that one with a lot of prayer. But this is the MRI after the surgery. Now, what I did was, after the MRI was taken, I sat at the hospital and I said, I'll stay here, and if you could put everything that you did today, all your hard work, all the MRI stuff, put it onto a CD disc, and I'll wait. And I waited like an hour or maybe even an hour and a half. And they came out and gave me the CD. So I just was very careful and very diplomatic, because you don't want to cause alarms to go off. And the people were saying, well, your prescription says you have concerns that you could have foreign bodies in your head. And I said, I don't know if that's true or not. The doctor said it might be true, so I'm just looking into it. I don't know what's true. So I pretended like nothing was going on. So here's the MRI after the surgery. And as you can see, that is nano-infested area full of nanotechnology in my little head. and it was extremely painful. And so what they do is when Melinda Kidder did her report, she found that there was a scar in my jawline, and they injected the substances in there, and to direct the substance, they had to use the microwaves. That's why I felt like I was having hot flashes or being cooked from the inside out. Why? Because I was being cooked from the inside out. So they were using the signals to push the nanomaterials up around the ears, and so they could make the nano over time assemble itself into a listening device. Okay? And the worst part is they didn't just settle for audio, they wanted visual. So my eyes also were tested, and my eyes showed that they were cameras in my eyes through nanotechnology assembling themselves into my eyeballs. So everything I did, whether I could see or hear or everything, I'm going to read you the report in about a minute. But basically, this was the epitome of the loss of privacy. I mean, this is the epitome of it, because the cameras.
Unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
It's crazy. I thought when Dr. Hildegard Staniger was trying to tell me what was happening, I said, this is nuts. No one's going to believe this. I said, the only reason I believe you is because you can prove it. And I had to study a lot, to understand what she was saying. And I did. I didn't just tell her you're crazy. She told me to go get the book, Nanotechnology for Dummies. So I did. And the only problem with that book is they don't tell you about the bad uses of nanotech. They tell you there's possibly bad uses, but this is weaponized military grade nanotech, and not regular people just can't get their hands on this stuff.
Yeah, but it's more and more people that has got this.
That's right. That's right. It's on the black market and all of this other stuff. And but in my case, it was designed for the purposes of, monitoring my behavior, downloading thoughts. And at the stage when they really activated it, I could hear sounds like AM, FM radio in my head. And I said, no, you don't. I said, you are not going to take space in my head. You are not taking the space. I said, if you want to know what's in my head, you're going to learn, because you're going to learn a lot about Jesus. So I said, okay, you're going to listen to highly positive audio recordings all day long, and beautiful high frequency sounds in my prayers to God. And that's what you're going to get. So you're going to learn a lot about God. So basically, let's see here, because the pages, I just want to make sure the pages don't fall out here. So then I go and get blood tests, a ton of blood tests. And it definitely proves that the nanomaterials were in my my body. And then the thing of this is, here's the key. And I describe this in full detail in my DVD, My Story from Targeted to Free, Love is the Answer. This thing is $55. Go to clergyvictim.com and it will say My Story, and click that, and it will give you access to the DVDs. Now, only people in the United States can get the DVDs. I do not have a way to ship them without UPS making someone pay $30 to get it to your country, so we can't do it that way. So what I did was I learned how and figured out how to put the DVD material into video format for video streaming access, and that's $45 on the same page. And other countries can purchase that, but you have to go to the second link down on the page where it says video streaming and not the DVDs. But I didn't.
Sorry, Keri, but you have another DVD. You are working on second. Is it second part?
Yes, this is part one of the series, and this is 6 hours, or about approximately 6 hours. It says here, you will learn how Sister Keri gathered the facts, assessed what was happening to her, how I shielded myself physically and spiritually, how you'll hear actual testimonies from my team, well, it's just my toolbox of remedies that I use to empower myself, to raise my vibration, and to comfort myself in this fact-gathering stage. My approach is faith-based, yet accommodates a universal audience, part 2 coming soon. I'm still in finishing touches on that, but thanks be to God, the hardest part is done. So
when do you think that you will have the part 2? Like,
I think reasonably, if I stay focused and I don't have a lot of distraction, I think within 2 weeks I should be able to have it in the format, in a DVD format. Or if I can't get it, because it takes a little bit of time to get it with the company for them to manufacture these, I could start with the streaming first. So one way or another, I think within 2 weeks I should have it completely perfected. The editing is what I'm doing now. And I don't know anything about editing. I've learned all this stuff by myself. I don't know anything about this stuff. So forgive the quality. So it's about the content. So basically, at this point, in meeting with Dr. Hildegard, she said that the Jesuits were the ones doing this to me. And I said, okay, well, why would they do that? Why would they bother with me? And she said that the Vatican and the Jesuits are doing this because you have knowledge and that you have a deep love for Christ. And I said, that's weird. There's a lot of people that love Jesus, and this doesn't make any sense. I'm not a nun anymore. I'm not in the Catholic Church. She said, precisely. So I'm going to get into a little bit on her report, because her report, she has a lot of courage to have written this report. It's an affidavit, and it explains, first before I get into her report, I want to go read to you what the purpose was for the first nano attack. Then I'll read you her report, and then I'm going to share with you the other things they tried to do to me, or they did do to me, but God rescued me. And I hope to God, nobody else has to go through being aerosoled and injected 9 times, so they have to prove their record in an affidavit that's this thick. See, when President Trump received these documents, there was $400,000 that went into proving that I'm not nuts. These guys are crazy for doing this stuff to me, you know? So, and of course, in 2016, in December, that's when I noticed all these attacks came to a screeching halt, was when my file, when my record made it to the president-elect at the time. And so that's why I believe God is using him to free me, because I'm not being followed by the bad guys anymore. At least I haven't been attacked that I know of since November of 2016. So this is part of Dr. Hildegard's, this is part of her report where she gets into the actual specimens. And when you deal with nanotechnology, it has to have energy in order, and it could use your own body as a battery. It uses photons, it can use light, UV. I mean, it's crazy. There's not one kind of weaponized nanotech, there's so many. And so when you are trying to free yourself of this, if you don't have a working Faraday cave, then it's not going to work. You're never going to be able to get clean of it. You have to have a Faraday cave, at least when you go to sleep, so your body can start to identify, okay, this is my body, this is my real body, this is foreign material, clean it out, get it out. But if you don't ever get a chance to get a break from that and block the signals, it doesn't have to be a perfect Faraday cave. And so I teach on the first DVD on this series how to make the Faraday that I made that worked for me, because I knew that the way to reverse this is if I'm taking in Dr. Hildegard's herbs and I don't have shielding, what good is the herbs going to do? It's just going to help it, feed the nanobots or nanites, whatever they are. So, okay, now, in the course of when you're doing this successfully, what's going to happen is I was noticing, because I was doing a lot of saunas and things of that nature, in addition to the therapies from 4 to 6 months. And stuff was coming out of my scalp and out of my body. It was gross. It wasn't fun. I mean, disgusting stuff was coming out of my body. So I was picking them out, and I would preserve them for evidence and get them to chain of custody through to Dr. Hildegard. And this test is Raman spectroscopy, which identifies the components of the stuff that I pulled out of my scalp. And so this stuff is not normal. This is not stuff that's supposed to be in your body. These are blown up, of course, but these were the things that were coming out of my scalp. And let me see if I could find you a better picture. The specimens, you can see how small they are in accordance
It's like
with the
millimeter of.
There you go. There it is. So there you go. But it goes from the nanometer all the way up when it assembles into a larger grade there. As you can see, the substance actually replicates. And so the origin of the specimens was determined in this $13,000 test called, and mine was more money than other people's because I wanted pictures of everything. I wanted this angle, this shot, I wanted this, you know, the other sample, I wanted everything looked at. And under
It's great because you have the documentation. It's like Dr. Catherine Horton also, you know her from Switzerland.
Yes, I used to watch some of her videos.
Yes,
There would be people lying in the intelligence community saying, oh no, this can't happen in physics. And I'm like, wait a minute, there's a girl on YouTube and she's a physicist and she's saying this stuff is real. So she's not lying, you know? So, and I used to laugh a lot when I watch her because she would say how she really feels. She doesn't hold it back, you know? So anyways, right here, this is where it describes what the purpose was for doing this to me the first time. The purpose is as follows. This is known as Exhibit U, and it was based upon the testing for the origin of the specimens. And if I could read the date, let's see here. Okay, December 13th, 2012, Advanced Material Analysis Report for Origin of Specimens. She did an amazing job on this. It's several pages long, but I'll just read you a few paragraphs. From Dr. Hildegard Staniger. The integration of nanotechnology in the biosensory world to monitor and control human life is where the line in the sand is drawn for the human being. The majority of high-impact technologies that utilize brain-computer interfaces as a neuronet, neurochain network, brain chip, or biosensor would be for the following purposes. Let's see here if I can get this closer, my eyesight here. Control and monitoring of the brain and bodily functions. Control and monitoring of the behavior of the individual, thoughts and temperature. So that explains why I was overheating. Sending and receiving verbal commands. Stimulation of bioelectrical transmission within neuron trees of the nerves. To be utilized as a listening device for remote sensing and monitoring. To be used as a transmitter for listening in on conversations within a specific area that the individual may be in where the device has been implanted in them. If there is a digital computer component to the device, it would be used to capture visual transmissions as a walking, talking monitoring system, a high-tech extrinsic spying system, especially for military industrial espionage. And it goes on about other aspects of hearing and vision for the hearing impaired, but I wasn't hearing impaired at that time. And so I never made any agreements to say, hey, do this to me. I never said yes to this. So that's the reasoning behind why they did that to me the first time. And of course, it took me like a year and a half to figure out what was happening. I didn't know what was happening to me. And God himself lined everybody up, especially Dr. Hildegard right there in Los Angeles, where I went in to see her and I got the remedy. 6 months later or 8 months later, I went back to Melinda Kidder and Dr. Hildegard Staniger. And the good news is because I asked Melinda, I asked Dr. Hildy, do you know of anybody who is able to reverse the technology? And she said, I had a client who was able to reverse it. And I said, well, I want to talk with her. I want to talk to someone who's successful. And she said, I don't know if that'll be possible because she signed an agreement, a gag order, basically. And I said, that ain't right. I was like, I want to talk to somebody, you know? And I said, well, that's okay. Well, God's going to show me, you know, how to get through this, but at least I know they received $100 million settlement, and that's why they weren't allowed to talk, which I respect that. But at the time, I was upset about it. So now, as things progress, I started to realize that the signals were breaking up. And the report shows, when I went back for a reevaluation, I'm just trying to find the exhibit here. The reevaluation shows that, in fact, after doing the blood test results again, and I went to see Melinda Kidder also, the report shows that I had a total turnaround in results and was responsive to the treatments as were outlined. Now, keep in mind, we're responsible for our own healing. Dr. Hildy doesn't know everything. She's not God. She's smart. She's a very smart lady. She looks like wisdom, okay, but she is not responsible for our remedy. So I would study on my own, and I would try things here and there. I'd try things over there, and we would just try to figure things out together. And I didn't expect her to be the one to show me how to get out of the mess, because, you know, the technology, Hildy was very honest with me. She said, I can't promise you anything because the technology changes all the time, but we can give it our best effort. And I said, well, that's all we can do is try. And so the total turnaround in results indicated that I no longer had the nanotechnology in my body, you know, at least in terms of functioning nanotechnology. It wasn't functional any longer. And so those results you can look at online. Also, you can download the documents for yourself, but it's called July 23rd, 2013, by Dr. Staniger, retesting of specific biological monitoring tests, exposure to advanced nanomaterials, basically military grade weapons. She says here on page, let's see, it's page 2 of the report. This is also known as Exhibit X. Conclusion. In general, the advanced biological monitoring tests show a total turnaround in response to outlined recommended treatments, therapies for exposure to advanced nanomaterials and biosensor devices. All values are within acceptable ranges, and patient client has not experienced symptoms as previously described in earlier report, which is the toxicological dysfunction analysis and other reports. And it goes on, and she gets more into doctor language and herbs and, I mean, different vitamins and things like that. Then, and that's signed, yeah, July 23rd, 2013. So this was a great time to celebrate. I was so excited about that. And it was hell, because you have to sit in the sauna for an hour, maybe. I was sitting in there, I was drinking gallons and gallons of water a day. It wasn't fun. I was next to my bathroom a lot. You're going to need to be near your bathroom. So then on June 1st, 2013, I went back to Columbia Investigations to Melinda Kidder, and she notated also the scan observations of note. Let's see here, I marked that page. Okay, it says here, okay, that my body was voluntarily searched for any property containing electronic devices, etc. None were found. Emptied my pockets and all that good stuff. That previously, using the ASICO, the RFID scan initially showed, you know, the megahertz and gigahertz switch range, which later I found out the 2.86 gigahertz switch range when I talked to my friends in Homeland Security. I texted my friend and said, can you just do a little research for me? And if you're going to really get in big trouble, then don't do it. She's like, no, perfectly fine. Don't worry about it. So I sent her all of the frequencies that was on my report from Linda Kidder. And she wrote back and said, okay. And then calls me and puts me on the phone with someone from another country and says, repeat after me and tell her the following. Because if you work for the US government, you're not supposed to tell this information. Obviously, it's classified. So she had someone else from another country tell me in the same car. And basically said, yeah, the signals that you got that were in the text message are from a drone, and it goes to Lockheed Martin. I said, what? I said, those signals? I said, do you know what those signals came from? She's like, no, you just asked me to look them up. I said, the signals were from my body. Okay, we gotta go, bye. Hung up the phone. Very nice people, I have to say, very nice people, very helpful people, and I will never divulge their name unless it was going to win them, good favor with Donald Trump. But I'm not going to get them in trouble. They're good people that research these things out for me. I would say good people in the sense that they try to help their friends out, and they're in a crappy system, so they have to work their way around just to survive. So basically what it has here is that the signals showed up, and that there was no longer signals. It says here, it was still working. It should be noted that the signal strength meter determined that these signals were not coming from Burnor, but to Burnor. Because last time they were coming from my body to the environment. And she said she read off the signal. So whatever signal was trying to couple itself with the technology in my body, the technology in my body was melted down. It wasn't working. It's like a broken radio. It's like taking a baseball bat and beating a radio, and then the radio doesn't work. So that's pretty much what I did with 75 pills a day, and then some. So praise God, this is a wonderful celebration. So I was like, okay, great. I'm free of the technology. Now my next goal was to sneak around and get an alias, and I was able to build an alias, and it worked. I couldn't believe it actually worked, with a social security number, and it worked. And I started to find a way to pack my stuff at nighttime, because I noticed that the gang stalkers were back. And I'm like, yes, the gang stalkers are back, which means the technology in my body wasn't tracking properly anymore. So I said, okay, my next best thing I need to do is escape the gang stalkers. So I was happy. I had them on camera 9 hours a day. I had my cameras pointed out, and I had them right there. I knew what they were doing. I knew their hours. I knew their shift. I had it all on camera. So I was like, okay, I know the best time to sneak out of my house and move. And it's funny. So the landlord was so cute. She's crying and she's hugging me like, I don't know why anyone would do this to you. And I'm like, I don't know why anyone would do this to me either. But she's like, you were a really good tenant. So I had to move, and I moved into another place, and I was safe for another a year or something, a year and a half or something. All of this is documented in my affidavit, so I don't have everything memorized. Obviously, the book is so huge, I can't memorize everything. So, and it's miraculous I even have a brain left. It's a miracle. So now I set out to move, and now I'm in my special little home, and I'm safe, and I don't have signals, and I'm living a normal life, or at least as normal as I can make it with an alias. I didn't go to any government, at the time in a formal way, because I didn't believe there was any hope or help, because I believed that at that time that if I wanted to go into witness protection, someone would have got me. So I was like, I can't go through that. So I figured out my own way to make my own witness protection, and it worked. So all of a sudden I get a phone call from my friend, Dr. Sherry Tenpenny. And yeah, she she's a good egg. We used to go to Cabo San Lucas all the time, you know, once a year, just to, you know, relax and get away from everything. So she called me with the news that her husband had passed away, and I'm like, oh no. And she's like, are you going to come to Cabo this year? And I'm like, well, of course. And I'm like, oh no, I just promised her I was going to go to Cabo. What if these people follow me? And I'm like, well, no, they're not going to follow me. I didn't know who I was dealing with. I didn't know that they had the vast resources. I didn't understand fully what I was dealing with, that this was tied into our own military, okay, under Obama. I didn't understand that until later. I had the proof that this was under Obama's directive to have me killed, okay? I have proof of that. Now, of course, Trump has that evidence. I don't give that away. But the thing of it is I went to Cabo. My friend Sherry went back home, and I had to stay longer for ministry business. And I ended up, when I went back home, I couldn't believe I was very, very sick. And I'm like, oh no, I think something bad happened again. So I went through the testing, and I did more testing, more happy testing. And the test showed rabbit fever, and or it's called tularemia, which basically is a bioweapon agent, and it was at the nanoscale. And I said, well, I wasn't near any rabbits. And Dr. Hildy basically said, and I got her on the phone with one of my security agents who has very high clearance, and they both said, you need to pack your bags and get out of there. And so I was like, well, it just so happens I have my bags packed. So I'll be leaving. And I noticed at that time that I had foreign operatives from Korea. So one of the Koreas, I don't know if it's North or South or what, but later I found out North Korea, okay. And basically I took video of these people that were following me in the park, or one guy was up behind me, and the other one was sitting on a park bench, and I made a scene. And I turned back and I gave him the look. I said, you come any closer. In my head, I was giving him the look, like, you come any closer, I'm going to clock you. I'm going to punch you, you know? And I don't care what it looks like, you know? So then that guy backs off, and the other guy, it was like over 100 and something degrees that day. Not fun at all, very hot. And this guy's sitting out at the park with a Korean newspaper. It looks funny, like funny writing. I could tell it was Korean. I did my thesis on Chinese painting, so I have a sense of some of the stuff that they do with the differences. And as I walk around the park, 45 minutes later, I see the same guy sitting there, and now he's putting his head down with the newspaper, and he had a hat on. And I took my phone, walked up to him, and put video right in his face. And then I took the file, downloaded it, and sent it to my security team. And he said, this is not good. You do need to leave. And these are foreign operatives coming to kill you. And I said, that's crazy. So I got on the radio show with Eric Phelps way back then. I don't know what year it was. I think it was 2014. It's all documented. And I basically said, you have no right. I don't care I don't care who sent you here. You have no right to kill me. You have no right to be on our soil, and America is not going to tolerate this. So I said, in the name of Jesus, you better watch yourselves. And I yelled at them on the radio. And I said on the radio, anybody, if something happens to me and I die, I have no insurance policy. So anyone who cashes out on any of my fake names or my real names, I want them detained and I want them arrested. So I told everybody, here it is, you know. So at this point, I still didn't understand exactly what was going on. It was so traumatizing. I just kept data. I kept writing in my journal, taking pictures, keeping files. I had the files all over the place just in case something happened to me. And then after I came back from Cabo San Lucas, that's when I recognized they tried to kill me again, and they realized they were able to spot me to find out where my hiding location was. So then more dispersals end up happening. Now here we have more testing. This was in 2015. I left for several months, as mentioned, because Dr. Hildy and my security guy said get out. So I left and I went away for several months. So the bad guys thought I moved out. No, I came back several months later, and then me not being so smart, my sister comes to visit me, and she gets on a plane, and I have to go pick her up. And I pick her up, and then I drop her off after the trip. The day after I drop her off, this is what happens. I also had a friend over the house. It's unbelievable. I should have known better, but anyway. My garage door was left open. I had a friend who has a handicapped person, and they can't get through the front door, so I left the garage door open. And I forgot it. I left it open. Well, a neighbor knocks on my door and says, "You left your garage open." And I'm like, "Oh no, well, thank you so much for telling me." So I go and I notice right away that my car door was left open, and a lot of the goods, everything was ripped out of the car. Like my belongings were all over the place, and 2 to 3 big bags of quarters were missing, but my very valuable things were still in the car. So I'm like, well, what's that? So I prayed about it, and I took pictures of everything, and I sent it to the private investigator, because police, I didn't trust anybody, and I certainly didn't feel if they were exposed to nanotech, they wouldn't even know what to do with it, I believe, at that time. So, and I am working on programs, by the way, to help the police and help the first responders and help hospitals to upgrade their gear, so that if they are present, to nanotechnology as a weapon, they would have a means to detecting that. So I do have those documents somewhere. But anyways, I noticed when I shut out the lights, and I had a stink finder for if a pet does an accident on the carpet. So I have my light, my black light, shut out all the lights, and I saw a green fluorescent dye on the carpet in the back seat. So I cut the carpet out and I sent it to the lab, and these are the findings of the results at the lab. This is what they found. Okay, here's the results. 6/19/2015. Okay, report on exposure to designer innovative nanotechnology assessment area. Now keep in mind, I sent the samples to Dr. Hildy before this date, but this is when the date of the report was created. Vehicle and living facility. On or about February 26, 2015, our client, Ms. Keri Burnor, had a break-in to their vehicle, which was reported to private investigators for safety concerns. And it says further, the red container number 1, which contained carpet material from the suspect vehicle, was positive for nanowires. The client did have a patch test analysis and hair analysis. Goes on. Analysis revealed specific materials that would induce colon cancer, breast cancer, and leukemia. And it says further, each used as a specific tag to induce and or monitor cancer mechanisms development. The analysis results indicate that the materials utilized were of a specific innovative nanotechnology delivery system with a specific intent, such as to give our client cancer at an accelerated rate of time. So now they're not interested in just monitoring me and spying on me. Now they want me dead, because this stuff was supposed to be accelerated, like within 45 or 60 days, I'm supposed to be dead. So by the grace of God, I knew immediately that I had to get back on my protocols to get through that experience. So then This is the other report that I loved the most that Dr. Hildy created, that she wrote, was very powerful. This is her affidavit in July of 2015. And she basically, and this is part of the record that went to Donald Trump, to the president. So he, I was asking him, and my other people were asking, please help her, So it says here on page 4, specifically in Keri Burnor's case, nanotechnology was used as a bioweapon, chemical weapon, a weapon of mass destruction with specific parameters used to give her rabbit fever, leukemia, breast cancer, and colon cancer, as well as the use of nanosilicon CMOS MEMS, neurospheroid technology used to violate her privacy, to damage her permanently and cause her death. Ms. Keri Burnor was perfectly clear of this technology, and since recent tests of porphyrins, other tests pending as of the date of this affidavit, has returned to show a presence of specific nanotechnology composed of hexagonocarboxyls that are specifically used to make porphyrin nanotubes used in hexagonal waveguides as reported in phase 1, etc. Special request analysis dated, here's your numbers by the way, 6/6/2015, June 6, 2015, were reintroduced back into her system, that she never gave permission for this, that the use of it was for torture, terrorism, and hate crimes reasons against her, due to Keri Burnor's unswerving faith in Christ without adherence to the Catholic faith tenets, recent conversion to 2008 to Orthodoxy, a heretical act as defined by the Roman Catholic dogmas, and as a means of retaliation by those who she witnessed against in a criminal trial in 2003 against a priest of the Cistercian order and the Catholic Church. The earmarks of Jesuit attack are also seen in that Fordham University pioneered the use of nanotechnology and is one of the leading authorities on the subject. That according to Keri Burnor's testimony, transcripts of the trial case number, etc., Commonwealth versus Joseph Chukong, that both priests who testified against her were either graduates, affiliates, or professors at Fordham University. Fordham University is a Jesuit university. Appian heard Keri Burnor mentioning her concern that this St. Joseph's Abbey in Spencer, Massachusetts was involved, and that this same abbey had a founder by the name of J. Peter Grace, who is also known as one of the leaders involved in Project Paperclip, an operation that furnished a way to assist German doctors of the Third Reich evade the Nuremberg trials while assisting with protecting those involved in mind control experiments. German scientists in 1934 developed nanotechnology as microbeads and other related technologies, as stated in Nanotechnology, A Gentle Introduction to the Next Big Idea by Mark Ratner and Daniel Ratner, Upper Saddle River, New Jersey, 2003. Appian believes Keri Burnor to be of sound mind and that her concerns are legitimate. Appian has personally seen the Department of Homeland Security monitor meetings outside of the building when Keri Burnor was present with Appian on Saturday, December 7, 2013, and it goes on and on. She did a really good job on that. So then, just to show you a picture of what we're talking about, the founder of St. Joseph's Abbey is commemorated here on this altar, and his name was J. Peter Grace, and he's the one that was involved in the Mind Control Ultra and Mind Control Delta, which when people do more and more research, you can go to my website, who is J. Peter Grace, and just so you know, Rockefeller Group Technology Solutions also wanted to know who is J. Peter Grace, so they visited my website, the Rockefellers. Who is J. Peter Grace? Well, they should know each other. They all work together, so that's kind of comical. And so, it's comical, but it's serious at the same time. I mean, this was during the time they visited my website on 23 March of 2016. You probably know what those numbers mean, all right? Now, I'm going to read to you a letter, if I can find it, what the significance of that day was supposed to be all about. In my heart, I was trying to make resolutions with the Vatican. I created an awesome program for the Vatican so we could come together and reach settlement discussions and, you know, move towards a path of forgiveness. And it was very open-minded. I was willing to be quiet about everything as long as they were going to help me, you know, in terms of funding me, so at least I could get the nanotechnology out of the foods. I was thinking that naively that someone would want to do the right thing. No, no. And as far as St. Joseph's Abbey goes, this letter is from I had plenty of attorneys with me in this journey. And the problem is I had to fire them, and one had to pull out because frankly he was afraid for his life. So, and I was okay with that. I totally respect that. We already previously agreed. We already made an agreement. I said, if something goes wrong, it's okay. We don't have to move forward with the case because I don't want anybody getting killed over this, because people were killed over this, unfortunately. People that were actually very close to me, actually. So here's the letter from Robert W. Gray and Associates. You can get this on my website, clergyvictim.com, Transforming Victims into Victors. Go to the tab where it says military grade nanotechnology used in efforts to silence informant. Scroll all the way to the bottom and you will have the letters written by this attorney and others too, other really prominent attorneys too. These were all great. They're very, very knowledgeable people that I was working with. To St. Joseph's Abbey, Damien Carr, President, or Father Dominic Wedby, or current office holder, and their address and so forth. Dear President Damien Carr et al., I will be calling the Abbey on Wednesday, March 23rd, 2016. March 23rd, 2016. Lovely Rockefellers had to put a cog in the wheel and stop the progress here, unfortunately. For the purpose of initiating negotiations to settle the claims of Sister Keri Burnor against the Abbey and all many other players who have had a part in damaging her. I ask that you have your legal counsel, if any, present for the call. I also am inviting the Pope or His Holiness's emissary to join us. This notice is going to His Holiness by way of international express mail, but if you have inside channels that would ensure he receives notice timely, please access those for this matter. If the above time is not convenient, please offer times more conducive to your needs. We will do our best to accommodate. Robert Gray, and to His Holiness Pope Francis, etc., Vatican City. I'll tell you, my mailing costs for all this was over $5,000. It's just nuts, you know? And so then, you know, it's just one thing leads to another, to another, to another. And St. Joseph's Abbey, in my opinion, I believe that there's people that control them. And I believe it's the Jesuits. I believe the Jesuits tell them what to do. The Abbey, I don't know, understands fully what's going on. I do know that they should be responsible for all this nonsense with the sexual abuse that's taken place there. I'm not giving any excuses to anybody, but it's easier for me to have compassion on them when I realize that even they didn't understand what was fully going on. And the reason I know that is because one of my counsel sat down with Father Dominic Wedby to try to resolve the matter. And Father Dominic never denied the nanotechnology was happening to me. He never denied any of that. So I was like, if I was the abbot and I was trying to cover it up, I would deny it. And he wasn't denying it. He was like, well, whatever we can do to help Sister Keri, if there's something we can do to help her, we will try. But he said, it's higher than us. It goes above us. So he admitted to that. He's like, this problem goes over us. It's above us. So I don't make any excuses for them, but I definitely can have a compassionate disposition to their situation in all of this. And again, I don't know if J. Peter Grace repented on his deathbed. I don't know any of that. All I know is, by their fruits you shall know them. And the fruit that I was seeing was years and years of seeing other people who were abused by the system and being eaten up by the machine. And the church wasn't acting like God's people. They were acting like a corporation devouring the people. So for me, it has to be very practical and simple. By their fruits you will know them. So with that being said, you know, I could go on for 3-4 more hours, but the thing of it is I'd like for you to let me know if you have any questions, because I think I covered most of the essence of the story. And it doesn't mean I don't hate any Catholics. There's a lot of Roman Catholic priests I still work with. The Roman priests, when I was on the run, one of them gave me several $1,000s when I was on the run, because they were tired of this stuff. They know that the Vatican is behind a lot of this stuff, and they're tired of it. So there's a lot of good Catholic people out there. So I don't hate Catholics. And as far as I'm concerned, to me, the remedy is get the Jesuits out of all of our countries. And here's one of my, you're gonna laugh. I think I have to see if I can find my dream board. In my dream board, I have like a vision of what I want to do. And part of the vision involves getting the Jesuits to be recognized for who they really are, as a threat to the national security of all countries, and get them out. And there's a picture of the list of all of the countries when Pope Clement XIV kicked the Jesuits out for meddling in government affairs and not just being priests. And I would like to see, what if, to me, my dream come true would be if St. Joseph Abbey wiped their hands of the Jesuits and said, we don't want any part of you. We're tired of the lies. We don't care if we can't make any more money, because obviously their money comes from these sources. We don't care anymore. All we want to do is love God. This monastery is for God's glory only. And every monk, any monk who's practicing homosexuality in here, whether it's of the free will or not, they need to get out. That's against the gospel. They shouldn't be doing that in a monastery, period. If they were heterosexuals, it shouldn't be going on in the monastery. They gave their lives to God, and they're breaking their vow to God. That's a no-no. So as far as I'm concerned, if the Abbey ever turned around like that, to me, all my suffering, everything I've been through, it would be worth it if they would take a stand for Christ and not for the Rockefellers, and not for globalism, and not for the satanic witchcraft that's going on behind their walls. Now, I pray for them. I don't judge them. God will judge them. But I believe in my heart that the Abbey's going to have an opportunity to do that someday. And I'm not here threatening them. I have no threats to the Abbey at all. All I want to see is the monastery go back to the true original roots. And if the original root is this, all about covering the Nazi nonsense, then may not one stone be left upon another. I pray in the name of Jesus that if that monastery stands for that stuff, in the name of Jesus, I call every stone to be leveled. And I don't mean any harm against the monastery. I'm saying that in some miraculous way, that Abbey would be disbanded and no longer be in existence anymore, because it's evil what's going on. I know a lot of people in the monastery. There's a lot of good-hearted people there, and those good people need to stand up and say no to this stuff, including you, Father Dominic. You and I had plenty of conversations, and I know you listen in onto these conversations, and you need to stand up now, Father Dominic, and I'm calling you out, because you were very honest with me in our dialogues, and you need to step up for the sake of the souls of those monks and yourself. So with all that being said, my preaching session is over. I have more things I could get into in the future. I could go into nanotechnology in foods. I could go into nano-domestic quell. I could go into the call to first responders. There's a lot of things I could go through, but in my heart, I think, you know, we've covered a lot here, and that's a lot to digest.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, you asked me if I have a question. I have 50 or more questions, and also to discuss with you what I know about, like what you say, the nano-domestic quell, about that, then about the assassination attempts with carcinogenic drug. I have a own experience with it. Also, I have got it 3 times, letters from these NGOs, how you call it, these non-profit charities. It was always from them, but because you have to be warned by the Illuminati, I've been warned that I will receive this. And I got a letter, and then I pretended that I am dying, or that I have got it. And I was following how quickly the Illuminati suppose that I will be have symptoms. And I can tell you it was within a few days, 1, 2, 3 days. It must have been something very, very quick. And then so we could talk about it also. And you maybe know that in Venezuela, Hugo Chavez, he's got it, and he has talked, as I understand, that many presidents or leaders in Latin America died in not so old. So he suspected something like that, and that maybe you have seen that some videos on YouTube that people believe that he has got also such a carcinogenic substance by the agents of Interpol. You maybe have heard that also. And I would like to talk, Rev Michelle Hopkins, on her YouTube channel, I have seen about the nano-domestic quell. And it was in October 2013. And after that, she's got an attack. I believe she was targeted by something of this and almost died. And then she is handicapped now, I believe, somehow in wheelchair. So maybe she has revealed a lot of other things, also harm crimes, and so I have so much to ask and talk about. So if when you are finished with the second DVD and you feel comfortable to discuss other things, I could talk with you 10 hours and we would have still a lot to talk about. And also you said the Jesuits, the Society of Jesus,
Yeah.
they go with their crosses with arms like this, not like Jesus like this. And X is the sign or the code for the Antichrist, not for Jesus. So they are the Society of the Antichrist.
Exactly. The Jesus in their image,
Yeah.
the horrors. No.
So it's totally wrong faith. So okay, it's getting very late in America, in the United States. Thank you so much, Keri, and
Appreciate you and everything.
thank you. And I will publish the videos soon, and both videos soon. I am a little delayed, and then yeah, we will spread the information, and it will be great to see you next time in maybe 3 weeks, something.
Excellent. Well, I'm going to try to stay focused and get this thing done. But yeah, please do. I'll send you the link so that people will know to access. If they're in the US, they can purchase this. If they're not in the US, they can get it through the video streaming access, and I'll give you all that information so it's easy. It'll just be click, click, click.
And it will be also great in case we could talk with Dr. Catherine Horton, and also with Eric Phelps. It would be great. And I don't know if it's possible. I would like to talk to Leo Zagami also, and it would be really great to learn a lot. And please tell me, when are you going to finish the second part of your book?
The second part of the book, well, that's brewing. Okay, that's going to be a little bit of time. I've got to first finish I treat this as a triage situation. So people who are physically suffering and all the other kind of suffering, I'm working on just getting this DVD done, because then that's going to make me feel better because people have access to the remedy. As far as the book goes, I'm prayerfully, I mean, I have everything already documented, so that's not the problem. But I believe that the second story can't be rushed, because I still think God is writing it. The second part of Divine Challenge, God is still writing that book, and I want to be in tune with Him, to what He's inviting me to do in there. I think something good is going to happen with St. Joseph's Abbey. I believe that. I believe that there's going to be something good's going to happen out of all of this pain and suffering. And but once again, God can offer those things, but we all are baby gods, so we have free will. So God has to, you know, He has to move our hearts. So I don't know that I want to rush that second story, because it's going to be a good one when God's done writing it. So,
yeah, I'm looking forward to read it also. It will be interesting, but don't rush, no hurry.
not for that, but for the remedy, you got it. It'll be done soon. But yeah, definitely with Leo, I haven't spoken with him since 2008 or thereabouts. So I have an old email. I'm happy to give it to you. But I love the work he's doing. He's out there and he's just, you know, hitting the Vatican hard. He's exposing and showing names and faces, and it's really tremendous what he's doing. He's getting the word out there about the Vatican, so people can make their own choices if this is the path that people want to take, and continue to support this kind of nonsense that's happening in the Catholic Church. So yeah, it would be fun. It'll be like old times.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Keri, and good night.
God bless you. Thank you again.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.